Welcome to another scriptural study. In fact, a scriptural word, scriptural agricultural, and scriptural astronomical study. And it's based on an additional request to go into what is known scripturally as the 40 days and 40 nights count to Shavuot. Yes, the 40 days and 40 nights scripturally and astronomically and agriculturally matches all of Moshe's writings, the prophetic writings, let alone is verified by the sun, moon, and stars. As always, stop the video at any time to focus on the scriptural information being shared and ensure your device, computer screen or mobile screen, is on full view mode to get the full leverage and full value out of this latest scriptural study. It's basically part 2 of the counts to Shavuot, where many folks were very interested in the 40 days and 40 nights. In fact, folks are coming to the conclusion that the 40 days and 40 nights counts are extremely amazing. Well, why? Well, at the end of the day, everything matches in Scripture, and why wouldn't it? So again, we're going to go over point 4 from the latest study that was released about a week ago. What does the 40 days and 40 nights count have to do with the festival? And it's enormous. Again, why are there more than one count to Shavuot? Furthermore, why isn't Scripture telling us, like it does for every other festival, an actual day and an actual month? For Shavuot, it takes wisdom, and wisdom can only come from witnesses. Yes, 2 or 3 witnesses, but there are far more witnesses with the amazing count of 40 days and 40 nights to Shavuot. Because Shavuot tests our wisdom. And we'll get into what testing means in regards to Shavuot through this study. Because it challenges us to know how to count the 3 days and nights. Let alone the comment from our only teacher, the Messiah Yahuwah, is there not 4 months till the harvest? Over and above the fact that this is verified by Moshe when he states in Leviticus chapter 23, verses 15 through 16, you shall count 7 completed Sabbaths. After the 7th Sabbath, you count 50 days. Then you shall bring a new grain offering to Yahuwah, which is matched to the 40 days and 40 nights, let alone the 7-year Shemitah cycle and the 50-year Jubilee cycle as verified by the 2300 day count by Daniel the prophet, let alone in Acts 2 in the renewed covenant. So let's get into this. We've covered this well before with videos named or titled Pagan Pentecost or Scriptural Shavuot, Daniel's 2300 day count to Shavuot, let alone numbering our days to the 5th new moon and Shavuot. Over and above a video entitled New Wine of Shavuot, New Wine for New Wineskins. Because in Acts chapter 2, when the day of the Festival of Weeks had come, they were all with one mind in one place. But others mocked them and said, they are drunk on new wine, because they were speaking in many other languages and or tongues. And as we know, agriculturally, the new wine is only available in August, late summer. So let's get into this a little deeper, because the 40 days and 40 nights counts to Shavuot align perfectly. Before we do this, though, some time for some recognition for many Bereans out there as they are sharing scriptural studies on what actually is the purpose of the festival of the wheat harvest, and as well when it actually is. So here is one great acknowledgement for Bereans that understand why John chapter 4, verse 35 is a key scriptural verse toward Shavuot. When the Messiah Yahushua, our only teacher, our only leader, as described in chapter 23, stated, do you not say there are still 4 months and the harvest comes? Remember, numbering our days to Shavuot has been a topic of concern and a scriptural topic for hundreds and thousands of years. And we're going to share why. Because our only teacher is known as the teacher of righteousness from Yahuwah. Yahushua, his son, the firstborn of all creation, teaches what his father taught him. This is why he's known as the teacher of righteousness. So when we learn the true counts with the 40 days and 40 nights, it opens the gates of righteousness. But if we reject the chief cornerstone, the Messiah Yahushua, it's very problematic. So let's get into this. So, if it's true, scripturally, agriculturally, and based on Moshe's writings, let alone the prophets' writings, that there are 4 months until the harvest, when did the Messiah Yahushua state this? Well, believe it or not, if we guard the month of Abib, and we truly number our days, we would know why the Messiah Yahushua went to a festival in chapter 5, verse 1, and what that festival was. Because we call chapter 2 of John and chapter 6 of John the bookends of chapter 5. So the acknowledgement and recognition to Bereans out there that are truly studying, rightly handling the word of truth, are just amazing. And we are so thankful for this because here's how it works. If you guard the month of Abib, the 3 days and 3 nights, and the sign of Jonah, all of this comes into light. So, before the first month, the first new moon of Abib, the Messiah Yeshua had stated that the Passover of the Yahudim, this means believers of Yahuwah, followers of Yahuwah, was near. So this was just before the new moon day. Some say on new moon day, but over and above that debate, it's before the first month feasts. And then he says it again in chapter 6. And the Passover was near, the festival of the Yahudim. So what is this festival that the Messiah went to in chapter 5, verse 1? Well, if you number your days, it becomes very simple. We go to Jubilees, chapter 6, verse 23. And on the new moon of the first month, and on the new moon of the 4th, 7th, and the 10th, these are days of remembrance, and the days of the seasons in the 4 divisions of the year. So the first new moon tells us when the true spring is. The 4th day of remembrance, new moon, tells us when it's truly summer. The 7th new moon tells us when it's truly fall. And the 10th new moon tells us when it's winter. But look what happens on the new moon of the first month of Abib. Noah was bidden to make for himself an ark. And on that day, the first day of the first month of Abib, the earth became dry, and he opened the ark and saw the earth. Truly something to celebrate, and truly why it's a festival. Hallelujah, that the first day of the first month, as described by the Messiah Yahushua himself in chapter 5, verse 1 of John, is indeed a festival. Now, some people argue this because it's not their fault. They're just not skilled yet or experienced in numbering their days. It's not their fault. So, if you number your days, you'll understand that the spring feasts are in Division 1. The summer feast of Shavuot, now regrettably known as Pentecost, is in Division 2, the true summer. And the fall harvest cycle, or feasts, are in Division 3. So, very basic because the sun, moon, and stars prove this. So yes, indeed, John chapter 5, verse 1 is the first day of the first month of Abib. And this is when Yahushua went to that festival. So we know this because in Psalms, or Tehillim, praises, chapter 81, verse 3, it states, and I quote, "Blow the ram's horn at the time of the new moon, at the full moon, on our festival day." Yes, the first day of the 7th month in Division 3 is truly a day of remembrance, and it is a chag, or a festival as well. So please learn about blowing the ram's horn with 2 silver trumpets. It's wonderful, and it all points to the Messiah Yahushua, our only teacher, our only leader, fulfilling the will of his Father. Yes, indeed, blow the trumpet in Zion. And Yeshayahu, or Isaiah, chapter 66, verse 23, states it well. And it shall be that from new moon to new moon, and from Sabbath to Sabbath, all flesh shall come to worship before me, declares Yahuwah. Yahushua fulfilled his Father's will. It's that basic. And yes, for folks that are not aware, not as skilled, not as experienced in numbering their days, this is something that behooves them at this point in time. So please be gentle, please have patience, because indeed, Yahuchannon, or John chapter 5, verse 1, is indeed the festival of the first day of the first month of Abib. It's that basic. Again, folks that struggle with this will also struggle immensely with the Battle of Jericho count. They'll struggle with this immensely, let alone the consecration of Aaron day count. New moon days are consecrated days. They're set apart. They are worship days, just as the prophet Yeshayahu or Isaiah had stated. So this is why we shared originally 3 years ago, 4 years ago now in this scriptural study video, Pagan Pentecost or Scriptural Shavuot. The world has been deceived in following Pentecost. Pentecost is a Greek word. We do not worship Greek traditions of men. We don't do that. So this is why we did this video as well. Who rejects the chief cornerstone and why? So again, we're not judging anyone. This is what happens out there, and why Yahuchannon, or John chapter 5, verse 1, is not acknowledged. There's guesses. So again, before the first day of the first month of Abib, guarding it, Yahushua, our only teacher, knew the Passover was near. And he knew to go to the festival of the first day of the first month of Abib. It's a day of remembrance. And he knew after that, in chronological order, chapter 6, verse 4, and the Passover was near the festival of Yahuwah. We call chapter 2 and chapter 6 of John bookends of chapter 5. And we've been saying this for years, but if you don't number your days with pen and paper and verify them outside in creation, you'll never see this. Especially if you don't understand the consecration of Aaron, let alone the counts of Jericho. So again, this is established further by what Yahuchannon recorded the Messiah Yahushua stating in chapter 5, verse 44, verse 47. How are you to be able to believe all of this when you're receiving esteem from one another? That's the Greek traditions of men and the Roman traditions of men handed down to us from Babylon. And the esteem that is from the only Almighty One, you do not seek. Do not think that I shall accuse you to the Father. There is one who accuses you, Moshe, in whom you have set your expectation. For if you believed Moshe, you would have believed me, since he wrote about the Messiah Yahushua. But if you do not believe his writings, how shall you believe the Messiah Yahushua's words? So let's count it out again. Take pen, with this digital pen that I have, and on this digital screen, or what I call digital paper, let's count it out, the writings of the Messiah Yahushua. And then compare them to what Moshe wrote. So, and the Passover of the Yahuwah was near, John chapter 2. So some believe it's just before day 1 of the first month of Abib. Some people believe it's the first day of Abib that he said this. Then we get to John 5:1. There was a festival. Of course there's a festival on the first day of the first month of Abib. It's a worship day, just like Yeshayahu said in chapter 66, verse 23, and Jubilee 6, verse 23, and on the new moon day of the first month, it's a day of remembrance, established forever. And this is why, in John chapter 6, verse 4, the Messiah Yahushua stated, and the Passover was near in the festival of the Yahuwah. So he said that somewhere around here, because you know what happened on day 6 with Hananiah. So we can go on and on. You can map it all out. Just number your days with the scriptures. And this is why we believe, he said in this week, some believe on the second day, John chapter 4, verse 35, 4 months to the harvest. This is not rocket science. It's really basic. And if you follow all of this along with Moshe's writings, you will start to understand why the 16th day, on the first day of the third week, you have a set-apart gathering. You do no servile work. That's when the priests wave the sheaf offering. You do no servile work, Leviticus 23, verse 7, Numbers 28, verse 18, Exodus chapter 12, verse 16. And you find out what they were doing. They were setting things up. So again, we covered this, and if you reject the chief cornerstone, Yahushua, then this will all fall apart on you. So what else can we recognize, people out there, those Bereans that are really rightly handling the word of truth, really studying with the proposed scriptural scriptural format, the proposed format? What else have we noticed? Well, they're using these divisions and they're recognizing them because the scriptural harvest spiritual cycle is aligned to Earth's creation agricultural harvest cycle, which is matched to the writings of the prophets, Moshe, let alone the Jubilees with the days of remembrance, let alone Zechariah's 4 fasts. But welcome to the church. You won't be needing any of all that information. Just trust me and celebrate Shavuot, which is now changed to Pentecost, a Greek word, in Division 1 in the spring. And I bought it, tooth and nail. I let a man-made self-proclaimed priest dupe me into only counting 50 days. I allowed this to happen to me. So did my better three-quarters, my wife of 34 years coming up soon. So again, we fell into this trap. So how do we know this? Well, the pagan origins of Christianity are well known. Pentecost is a Greek word. It does not exist in Scripture. It's a Christian festival celebrated on the seventh Sunday after Easter, commemorating the descent of the Holy Ghost. There is a Ruach, but there is no Holy Ghost. Think about this. So again, you can find this anywhere, and it's 50 days and linked to Easter. Easter is Ishtar, a Babylonian deity. So you don't want nothing to do with this. Who is Easter? Again, we've gone over this, and the whole world and the earth marveled after the beast. So look on any calendar, whether it's Judaic, any Christian denomination, any of them, let alone Hebrew roots and Messianic movements, and they're going to tell you that Pentecost is in the third month. It certainly is. We don't disagree that Pentecost is in the third month. Pentecost, the Greek and Roman celebration based on Babylonian belief systems, is definitely in the third month, but Shavuot isn't. So, if you want to follow Ichthus, understand who IHS is, you'll be horrified. Again, if you want to follow self-proclaimed priests and rabbis, the Scriptures is not for you. So here's an example. Who was Flavius Josephus? His original name was Joseph ben Matthias, born in AD 37-38 in Jerusalem, and he died in AD 100 in Rome. I repeat, in Rome. He was a Jewish priest, a rabbi, known as a scholar, and a historian who wrote valuable works on the Jewish revolt of 66 to 70 AD and on earlier other writings of Jewish history. So, he's not a bad guy. We're not judging him. He's not evil. But he's accredited to the following. When a weeks of weeks has passed over after this sacrifice, which weeks contain 49 and 9 days, on the 50th day, which is Pentecost. Again, you can't find that scripturally. How do we know this? But is called by the Hebrews Asartha. It's not called Asartha by the Hebrews. It's called the festival wheat harvest. It's called Shavuot. Find out what Asartha is. And we're going to get into this, which signifies Pentecost. And in this we do not disagree. It is Pentecost in the third month. It is indeed a Babylonian/Greek/Roman celebration. And it's very easy to prove. So again, there are reasons why in Matthew 23, verse 8, do not be called rabbi, for one is your teacher, the Messiah. And if you don't trust the Messiah's writings, you're in trouble. So let's get into this a little further, because we then come to 1912 in a book called Light on the Gospel by Edwin A. Abbott. And he is quoted as stating, secondly, as to Pentecost, a name for it preserved by Josephus. It's not preserved by Moshe. It's not preserved by any prophets. It's not preserved by the Messiah Yahushua. It's not preserved by the apostles, the messengers or ambassadors of the good news message. And they call it Asartha. Well, what does this word mean? Well, if you get into some lexicons, it means assembly. And scripturally, it's applied to any sacred assembly. But that's not true, because there's an argument with rabbis in Judaism that they disagree with this. And we're going to share this. And Asartha is rendered by many different Greek words. We are done with the traditions of men and the doctrines of Babylonian, Greek, and Roman mythology. Now, if you want to stay in the world and you have a love of the world, which you're not supposed to, this should start opening your eyes. It's problematic. Again, he's not trying to cause a conspiracy. Remember, he was trained as a rabbi. So what happened to the Judaic system? The original true scriptures? Well, in their exile, twice into Babylon, they picked up a few nasty habits, traditions of men. And one of them was Asartha. So let's go on a little bit more. Because it also means closing. Closing. And they use the same word, Atzeret, Shemini Atzeret, for the last great day, the 22nd day of the 7th month. So this word, Asartha, is very problematic. And if you're into studying in great, deep studies, etymologically, understanding why world religion struggles so much, here's a great link by Rabbi Reuven Chaim Klein. And he and many others are shouting out, stop! It's not Asartha, it's Shavuot. So let's keep going here. Again, you're not to be called a teacher. And the Messiah, Yahushua's own words, rabbis, these teachers back then, do all their works to be seen by men, and they make their tefillin wide and lengthen their tzitzits of their garments. And they love the best place at feasts, and the best seats in the congregations, and the greetings in the marketplaces, and to be called by men, Rabbi, Rabbi. But you, meaning us, are not to be called rabbi, teachers, for one is your teacher, the Messiah. So, what are we recognizing other Bereans for? For the great work that they're doing, because they're realizing that these rabbis were duped in their exile to change the true Shavuot. And you can read this in the Mishnah, which is an authoritative collection of exegetical material embodying the oral tradition of Jewish law, not scriptural law, and forming the first part of the Talmud. Because you'll start to find out what they did with their wheat harvests and why they started to disregard the true festival wheat harvest in late summer. And they switched it to spring. So they got caught up in this Babylonian system. So we'll talk more about this. And as a result, they deny the chief cornerstone. No one argues that at all. They deny the true Mashiach, the Messiah, the anointed one of Yahushua. And as such, Moshe wrote about what the Messiah was going to say, and they rejected. And thus they reject today, because of their Babylonian traditions, the two counts in Leviticus chapter 23, verse 15 through 16. Count 1, you shall count 7 completed Sabbaths. After the 7th Sabbath, on the morrow, you count 50 days. Then you shall bring a new grain offering. So again, the 2 loaves are made with the fine flour. That only comes from the wheat that's planted in the spring. It takes 4 months to mature and then into summer. Let me go back to one little scriptural item here. Yes, the stone which the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. This has been rejected by the builders. All of this. But for the folks that are coming out of world religions, we recognize that this was from Yahuwah, this actual comment from the Messiah Yahushua, and it's marvelous in our eyes. This is the day Yahuwah has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. We are aware of Shavuot. We rejoice in it. We don't go back to the Babylonian traditions. So remember, spring wheat that's harvested is planted in the fall and harvested in the spring. It takes 6 to 7 months to mature. This is not the wheat that the Messiah Yahushua was talking about. He was talking about the wheat that was planted in the spring and takes 4 months to mature. Do you not say there are still 4 months and the harvest comes? Bring from your dwellings for a wave offering 2 loaves of bread of 2/10 of fine flour they are. So again, old grain does not produce the fine flour. The new grain does. So let's talk a bit more about this. The old grain, however, also known as winter wheat, because it's planted at the end of the year, at the end of the fall time period, has chemical properties that produce cookies, crackers, pretzels, and cakes, and matzos, which are not like the fine flour that only comes from the summer wheat harvest that produces the fine flour required for the 2 loaves, or the offering for Shavuot. So again, no matter what resource you go to, spring wheats are planted early in the spring, grow quickly, and are harvested in late summer. Again, on this YouTube channel, we do our best to make sure it's a rabbi-free zone, a stress-free zone, no bullying allowed. We're not going to allow a Babylonian mindset to take the lead. We are not interested in teachers. We are only Bereans, study students that are doing our best to become fully noble. So again, please, the links are all attached. These visuals are all shared in the description box of this YouTube channel. Study this out, because if you're looking to follow a rabbi, there are tons of them in Judaism and every denomination of Christianity. So this is why we're recognizing these Bereans, because they're recognizing that there's no such thing as Asartha. And scripturally, there's no such thing as Pentecost. It's man-made and originates in Babylon. How do we know this? Well, there's an early church father named Eusebius. He was also a bishop of Caesarea, was a historian who formed the Orthodox understanding. The work of the scholars of the Christian school at Caesarea extended into all fields of Christian writings. Stop the video now, because all he's doing is quoting Josephus. They were locked in. They were locked and loaded into world religions and the traditions of men. It's not their fault. My parents did not know any better. My grandparents did not know any better. So let's go back to this book, Asartha. Do a word study on Asartha, and here's what you'll come up with, and the closest thing you can come up with, and there's much more, but its meaning in English is blankness, which written as Asartha in Roman means in English barrenness, blank, desolation, gap, hollowness, nothingness, vacancy, and on it goes. So this is not rocket science. And lo and behold, this link right here from the Catholic Church promotes all of this. You're not going to see any prophet. You're not going to see any messenger. Share this, Asartha. You're not going to see this anywhere in Scripture. And again, you don't see the word Pentecost. But the second Babylon, they love it. And regrettably, some are not as experienced with years, let alone are not really skilled in great scriptural study habits will fall into this trap, just like past rabbis did with the 2 exiles into Babylon. And the Apostle Shavuot stated in 1 Corinthians 1 verses 22 through 23, and this is why the Yudim asked for a sign and Greeks seeked wisdom. If you don't get the month of Abib right with the 3 days and 3 nights, you're going to consider it a stumbling block. This will be a stumbling block for you. And to the Greeks or the Gentiles, all of this will be foolishness. And it's very easy to prove. So again, this is why we don't strive with the flesh. I've made my mistakes personally, and I've repented of those aggressive, past over 10 years ago when I was learning this. This is why now we take the fight to the principality. We don't strive with the flesh. We go to the institutions that are still promoting this. The self-proclaimed teachers or self-proclaimed rabbis. Because Shavuot's all about knowing where you stand. It's a testing and a trial process, if you will. 1 Yahuchannon in chapter 5, verse 19 through 20 explains it far better than I ever could. We know that we are of the Almighty One, Yahuwah, and all the world lies in the wicked one. We know that this world presently, Satan is the spirit of the air. And we know that the Son of Almighty Yahuwah, the Messiah Yahushua, has come and has given us understanding. Yes, there are 4 months to the harvest. And we know that chapter 5 of John, verse 1, is the first day of the first month of Abib. We know the bookends. All of this understanding is in order that we might know the true one, and that we are in the true one, in his Son, the Messiah Yahushua. And now we know why, in most cases, the chief cornerstone is being rejected. It's unintentional. People are not aware. This principality has been so successful at duping all of the world religions, including Hebrew roots and Messianic movements. It's very easy to prove, and you know it. None of us are obligated to follow a Nimrod. None of us. So again, as of the pagan month March of this year, the world's population was approximately 7.9 billion. And all of these folks are reasoning with each other and not reasoning with Yahuwah. Because in this world, the prophet Ezekiel had stated in chapter 9, verse 19, and I quote, "Therefore thus said the Master Yahuwah, see, I'm giving the land of Egypt, Mitzrayim, to Nebuchadnezzar, sovereign of Babylon," or Babel. And as you can see, this is now under the guise of the principality of the second Babylon, as quoted by Kepha in 1 Kepha, or Peter, chapter 5, verse 18. She who is in Babel. Rome is called Babel for a reason. Many reasons, actually. So you don't have to get caught up in this. And this is why it's time for recognition, to jump out for joy and recognize those Bereans that are taking the time to understand what Shavuot actually is and when this festival of the wheat harvest actually takes place. So again, we are recognizing these folks that recognize that Pentecost does indeed, the pagan Pentecost does indeed exist in the 3rd month in Division 1, but Shavuot does not. Pentecost and Shavuot are 2 different things. But if you're reasoning with world religions and self-proclaimed priests and rabbis, this will behoove you. Again, we know this information. The Christian holiday is celebrated 50 days after Easter. Shavuot is not like that. Shavuot is something greater. But again, if you want to follow Ichthus, IHS, then that's what you will do. So let's get in now to the count of 40 days and 40 nights to Shavuot. And let's find out why this is so important. Remember, Shavuot, in Scripture, you're not given a month or a particular day. Every other festival, you're told the month, and you're told the number of the day in that month. But for Shavuot, you don't. So, the 40 days and 40 nights count to Shavuot truly highlights why it's not in the third month. Let's go into this now. So think about this. How do you get 40 days and 40 nights in the first month if you don't even come to Mount Sinai until the third month? Oh no. This is where the whole system of the Babylonian church, or synagogue, falls apart. But they take away your brain at a very young age so you don't realize this basic thing. So, the 40 days and 40 nights that Moshe writes about was obliterated. And it was obliterated by a pagan tradition of man called Lent, which is nothing more than a Babylonian tradition for the weeping of Tammuz. Yes, all of this baloney started in Babylon. So think about this for a minute. What Moshe writes about in the 40 days and 40 nights, the first time he goes up on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights, is acquiring all that great fruit of the law, of the commandments. Lent does not do that. So it ought to be known that the observance of Lent did not exist as long as the primitive church retained its perfection unbroken. This is a Catholic ordained saint by the name of St. John Cassian. If you read this book, they had Lent locked and loaded for the masses very early on. And it replaced people reading what Moshe was learning and recording on the tablets. So again, Lent is celebrated in the spring and derived from the Old English word Lenten. Spiritually speaking, all roads regrettably do lead to Babylon or Rome, and such is the case in regard to the 40-day spring fasts. Oh my. In one version of the Babylonian myth from this resource, and there are many more, Tammuz, the great hunter, was slain while hunting a wild boar. Devotees mourn for him through weeping ceremonies for 40 days and 40 nights in the spring. During the days of Yahuwah, this ritual was even found among the Israelites. Again, the Israelites adopted some pretty nasty traditions of men. And the prophet Ezekiel goes on to say in chapter 8, verses 13 through 14, sorry, there's a typo, error right there. That should say 13, not 132. And I quote, "And he said to me, you are to see still greater abominations, which they are doing. And he brought me to the door of the north gate of the house of Yahuwah." North gate, Polaris, Ursa Major, goes around it in 23 hours, 56 minutes, and 4.09 seconds every day. "And I saw a woman sitting there weeping for Tammuz." It goes on further to say, worshippers of Tammuz wept with his consort Ishtar. This is where we get Easter from. Believing that his rebirth would mean the regeneration of life within nature. Similar feasts are found throughout pagan peoples of antiquity. For instance, the ancient Egyptians observed a 40-day fast, 40-day and 40-night fast in honor of Osiris, which all happened in the spring towards the third month. The sign of the cross, rubbed with ashes, is not exclusive to Constantinian Christianity. It is found throughout the ancient world and was used as a prominent symbol of the pagan gods. For example, the cross was inscribed on their foreheads of initiates into the mysteries of Mithra. Mithra religion, right? Mithra was born December 25th, had 12 apostles, on and on it goes. It's the robbing of knowledge or hiding what the scriptures were saying, and this stuff is just replacing it. It is also interesting to note that the act of simply sprinkling ashes directly on the head, which is also done on Ash Wednesday, which just passed, by the way, was done in honor of the pagan Norse god Odin as well. The placing of ashes above the brow always occurred on Wednesday, the day named in honor of Odin. So are you getting a little nervous if this is the first time you're seeing something like this? I did. We are not obligated to worship like a Nimrod. We know who's putting ashes on their forehead in the spring. We know the 40 days and nights of Lent are to replace the 40 days and nights time period that Moshe went up into the mount on Mount Sinai. So again, this is alive and well today, regrettably. And this practice obliterates the true counts to Shavuot. So why is this happening? Why go through all this trouble as a Babylonian to hide the true counts? Well, at the end of the day, they're hiding the fact of the importance of prayer, palal, and fasting. And what that does for a believer in regards to cleansing, getting ready for these festivals, to be cleansed. So, let's recap. So here's a template, and we're just going to go through the scriptures. We're going to take pen to paper, or in this case, digital paper with a digital pen, and we're going to go over some stuff to see if it all works. So either before or on the day, first day of the first month of Abib, the Messiah Yahushua recognized that the Passover of the Yehudim was near, John chapter 2, verse 13. And we do know that the first day of the first month of Abib is a festival. It's a day of remembrance. Jubilees chapter 6, verse 23. And we do know that the Messiah Yahushua went there. And we do know that the prophet Yeshayahu stated that from new moon to new moon and from Sabbath to Sabbath, all shall come worship me. Again, the Messiah Yahushua follows his Father's will. So he did all that. He fulfilled his Father's will. That's what he did. And we do and are aware that, again, Jubilees chapter 6, verse 23, and on the new moon of the first month was a festival. It's a day of remembrance. And we are fully aware that in John chapter 6, verse 4, the bookends of chapter 2 and 6, and the Passover was near the festival of the Yehudim. And we are fully aware that in John chapter 4, right in the middle of that, boom, right here, and we believe it could have been said on the second day of the first month, as early as then, or even the first day for that matter. He said, Messiah Yahushua, that there were 4 months to the wheat harvest, to Shavuot. So if we plug in that count, starting from the second day of the first month of Abib, we come to 116 days for this year. Now, I'm plugging in this template, our forecast, for this year to see if it's going to work. Because as you know, some months, third months and fourth months, can be 30-day months. Some can be the difference of 30 and 29-day months. But this year, our forecast with the sun, moon, and stars, not what we think, the witnesses of light, sun, moon, and stars, are telling us that the third month and the fourth month will be 29 days. So we counted up. 4 months at a minimum is 116 days to a total of an average of 118 days. So here we are, 116. And this year, the first day of the fifth month, that would be a total of 117. So yeah, 4 months. And if it was 30-day months, you'd get close to the 120. This is not rocket science. Take a pen, count it out on paper. It's not that difficult. As long as you make the foundation of your template Yahuwah's foundation. New moon day is always day 1 of any scriptural month. 7 days later on the 8th day is the first Sabbath. 7 days later the 15th day is the second Sabbath. 7 days later on the 22nd day is always the third Sabbath of any given scriptural month. And finally, 7 days later on the 29th day of any scriptural month is the fourth and final Sabbath of a scriptural month. So here we are. It's really cool. So let's keep going. Let's go on. So as we know, count 1, completed Sabbaths. And again, they like it or not. A lot of people debate this, but scripturally, Moshe is clear. The wave sheaf offering took place on the 16th day of the first month of Abib. And it says you count 7 completed Sabbaths after that 16th day. So the 22nd day of the first month, which is the third Sabbath, is the first Sabbath of 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. After the seventh Sabbath, you count 50 days. Then you shall bring a new grain offering to Yahuwah. Well, let's put those 50 days in, shall we? 1, 2, 3. This year's a 29-day month, 21. And here is another 29-day month. Boom! There it is. So, as you can see, it falls right there. And I'll share the dates from a Gregorian standpoint. Again, I no longer need the Gregorian calendar. Why do I? Why would anybody need the Gregorian calendar? If you're just counting the days of the Messiah, Yahushua, as taught to him, the righteousness from his Father of lights, Yahuwah, the only self-existent one, why would you even need a Gregorian? So as you can see, you really don't need a Gregorian if you're following the sun, moon, and stars with the scriptures and verifying it out in creation. So we do know that they came to the third month, to the wilderness of Sinai. They came out of the land of Egypt, Mitzrayim, and on this day they came to the wilderness of Sinai. Now, some people say they showed up on the first day of the third month. Some say, sometime in here. At the end of the day, for me, it's irrelevant because there is no number. They're here at the third month. It's that simple. Now, think about what I'm about to say. How can you get 40 days and 40 nights in the first division? Where would that start? It's impossible. So he didn't go up on the mountain in the first month. He didn't go up on the mountain in the second month. See, so it's problematic. And we do know that on Shavuot, the 2 tablets were received with the 2 loaves. So, again, if you go up on the mountain in the third month, well, then the 50-day count can be aligned to the 40 days and 40 nights. So this is why people that celebrate Shavuot in the third month and or before always hide the 40 days and 40 nights counts. And this is what the Babylonians did with Pentecost, 50, Greek, Asartha. It's not scriptural. You can't find it. Now, again, self-proclaimed priests, rabbis, teachers, which is non-scriptural, will try to shove the third month down your throat. It is what it is. I did it. I was part of that problem. I celebrated Pentecost, and I've repented of that. So again, none of us are obligated to follow a Nimrod, a Babylonian system of worship. So, Lent is definitely in the first division. The 50-day count of Pentecost is certainly in the 50-day division, if you will, in regards to Jubilees chapter 6, verse 23. But Shavuot isn't. It's not there. So if you want to follow pagan world traditions of men, that's what you will do. There are tons of examples that you can test and prove here and now. Take every world religion, including Hebrew roots and Messianic movements. They will all tell you, like the Babylonian system, like the 40-day fast and 40-night fast of Odin, or the Egyptians for Osiris. It's all here. We came out of that. We have no desire or interest to go back to that. So, we follow this because it's aligned to the sun, moon, and stars. And it's aligned to the agricultural cycle, which Moshe wrote about scripturally, let alone the rest of the prophets. So we're going to get into the sun, moon, and stars now because you can prove that Shavuot is not with the sun, moon, and stars in the first division. You can prove that very easily. It's nowhere near the third month. And we can prove that historically, archaeologically, astronomically, historically. But again, if you're interested in following where it all began, all these problems, these spring feast time periods and fasts in the spring, well, you have that right, obviously. Again, if you want to be part of the worshiping system of Tammuz, let alone the Egyptians and how they fasted 40 days and 40 nights in honor of Osiris, you can do that. But again, we are done with that because it's wrong. It's not scriptural. And it certainly does not fall in line with trusting the chief cornerstone. We do not reject what the Messiah Yahushua states, that the fact remains that there is 4 months to the festival wheat harvest. So if that's true, the 40 days and 40 nights should align to that 4 months with the 7 Sabbath counts. And on the morrow after the 7 Sabbaths, we count 50 days. Well, there should be a starting point to that count. So this takes us to Shemoth, or Exodus chapter 19, verses 10 through 11. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, go to the people and set them apart today. So we believe they were set apart on the 15th day of the 3rd month, which is the 2nd Sabbath of the 3rd month. So they were set apart that day, like we're supposed to be set apart every Sabbath day. Again, they came to Mount Sinai in the 3rd month. This did not happen in the 1st or 2nd. So you have to get your mind around this. So, moving forward, it goes on to say, and tomorrow, on that next day, the 16th day of the 3rd month, they shall wash their garments and shall be prepared by the 3rd day. Why? What's going to happen on that day 17? What's going to happen? Well, as you can see, there was a cloud, and all the people seen that cloud. And for on the 3rd day, Yahuwah shall come down upon Mount Sinai before the eyes of all the people. Now, they didn't see his face. All they seen was the cloud. So here we have it, set apart on the 15th day, wash their garments 16th, and be fully prepared by the 17th day of the 3rd month for that cloud. Prepared by the 3rd day, for on the 3rd day Yahuwah shall come down on Mount Sinai before the eyes of all the people. What happens the next day? Well, and Yahushua said to Moshe, come to me on the mountain and be there while I give you tablets of stone. So, we believe the first day of the 40-day and 40-night count started on that 18th day of the 3rd month, which I will give you tablets of stone in the Torah and the command which I have written to teach them. And Moshe arose with his assistant Yahushua, and Moshe went up to the mountain of the Almighty One. Now, for those 40 days and 40 nights, he was instructed with great instructions. It wasn't a fast to Odin, a Norse pagan deity. It wasn't a fast 40 days and 40 nights to the Egyptian deity Osiris. There was serious stuff going on here. Moshe was given the law at this time period. This did not happen the 40 days and 40 nights in the 1st month or the 2nd month. We know this. So the 40 days and 40 nights blows away. It obliterates 3rd month Pentecost celebrations. It does it in right away. It's the death kill, the silver bullet that kills the werewolf, so to speak. I'm trying to be over flamboyant here to get the point across. So it's that simple. But again, if you want to hide all of the information that was being absorbed by Moshe to be written down on the 2 tablets, well, create a 40-day and a 40-night fast to your pagan deities in the spring months, and you can get rid of the true Shavuot counts. Now, can't you? So Moshe goes up on the mountain, and this is actually the 10th day of the 50-day count. Again, it's the 18th day of the 3rd month. If you number it all out, you can count all this. And it's, in this case, this year, the 76th day of the 4-month count. So if you number it all out, just get organized. Remember, Yahuwah is the Almighty One of order. He's not chaos. So this demands some organization. And if you're going to discuss this subject with someone, have the respect to Yahuwah to do this type of work. Don't put one little visual with a couple scriptural passages and think you can get away with that. If you're going to allow iron to sharpen iron, do the work. Provide the iron. Reason with Yahuwah respect Yahuwah, and do great work. So again, as we know, the 40 days and 40 nights ends in this count for this year. There are two 29-day months, third month and fourth month. And notice the 49th time period ends just before the 50th day of Shavuot. And we do know scripturally what's going on here, don't we? Because good old Aaron at that time, now think about this, before Aaron was consecrated as a priest, the people dupe him. They're worried, where is Moses? Where is Moshe? We're left alone. So he buckles under pressure. And what does he do? He creates a golden calf. And we know Yahuwah is fully aware of this, and he's telling Moshe on these final days, hey, look, they're turning on you. These people are turning on me as well, Yahuwah. They're turning on Yahuwah. They're turning on you, Moses. And he's being told all this if you read everything of all scripture from Moshe, what's happening on this first ascent up the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. So it aligns perfectly. At the end of the 40th night, towards the dawn, when a true day start is, they're getting ready for the festival to Yahuwah. They knew when Shavuot was. They knew it, and it's mixed worship. Look under this verse, under the 1998 ISR translation, and it has a little footnote that says mixed worship. They started practicing mixed worship on Shavuot. And this is where Moses or Moshe broke the two tablets. We know about this. We can read about it. But this is obliterated, isn't it? Because the two tablets were not broken in the third month. How could they be? There were no 40 days and 40 nights. They did not get to the mountain until the third month. This is the amazing thing about the 40 days and 40 nights count. None of this happened in the first division. But yes, the Greek, Babylonian, Roman Pentecost certainly does. And Asartha certainly does. Has nothing to do in the first division. Nothing to do. Shavuot has nothing to do with the first division. Yes, the first Sabbath after the 16th day of the first month of Abib starts, and then the 50-day count. But as you can see, you can't get 40 days and 40 nights with the rest of the story. You can't get that alignment. It's a huge, huge finding that's always been there. And many Bereans have been fully aware of it for years and years and years. And this is what's hidden. There are some people that have the audacity to say that Pentecost has been hidden. No, it's not. Every world religion celebrates it. It's not hidden. But this certainly is hidden. All of this is hidden. So if you want to be with the crowd and locked in, so to speak, with the pagan Pentecost, well, that's when it happens, and you'll do that. We left that. Are we not to come out of this world? So again, if you're interested in all of that foolishness, it's there, and you can prove it. So take a look at this. There's something else. Because Zechariah, the prophet, stated, and I quote, "Thus said Yahuwah of hosts, the fast of the 4th and the fast of the 5th are to be joy and gladness and pleasant appointed times for the house of Yehudah, and they shall love the truth and peace." The 2 tablets and the 2 loaves are given at Shavuot. And notice, the first day of the 4th month and the first day of the 5th month, the conclusion of the 50-day count, the true 50-day count, after the 7 completed Sabbaths, and the conclusion of the 40 days and 40 nights count are all in alignment with even what Zechariah is saying. Fasting allows you to be still and quiet. It allows you to get the cobwebs of pagan traditions out of your head. It allows you to leave Babylon, to come out of her. Again, we're not obligated to follow a Nimrod. This is simple stuff. So, It goes on further that the 40 days and 40 nights is actually aligned to the counts of Daniel, the 2300 day count. And most people do not realize that that 2300 day count is aligned to the Shemitah 7-year cycle scripturally and the 50th year cycle, or the year of Jubilee. Remember, when we ask the Father in chapter 90, verse 12, to teach us with his sun, moon, and stars to number our days, to bring our hearts to wisdom, this is the wisdom. It's not just one day. Wisdom is all-encompassing. But some people have this urge to dumb it down for many reasons. So remember, Shavuot is big. The golden nuggets and the little crystals of gold are truly hidden from the world in scriptural words, scriptural names, and the scriptural law. So let's get into the 2300 day count, because most people are not aware that when Moshe, went up the first time for 40 days and 40 nights, and then he came down and he seen the golden calf, most are not aware of how that's aligned to the 4 divisions of a year and the rest of the feasts of that year. Because Moses goes up again for 40 days and 40 nights, a second time, and he goes up again a third time. And how all of this is aligned to the fall feasts is further wisdom, which we plan to cover in separate scriptural study videos, Yahuwah willing, of course, at a future date. So, can we prove in the renewed covenant all of this as well? Well, on our last video and many subsequent videos before that, or past videos, yes, the emissary Shaul stated that I shall remain in Ephesus until the Festival of Weeks. He stayed there for his safety. You do not sail on the Mediterranean in the spring with that type of technology they had at that time. So make a long story short, if you understand this, when he sailed, and the 2300 day count from Daniel, well, take a look at this. If you count 2300 days after the first day of the first month of Abib in 2014, you would have come to Shavuot. Again, you would only come to that conclusion if you utilized the sun, moon, and stars. Yes, you forecasted that out in advance, and then you got outside to test and prove the Shavuot sign. So let's go over that just like the sailors did to ensure they were safe on the open seas to travel at the proper time in the summer months when it was safe in the Mediterranean. So let's take a look at this. So I just, again, these programs are available to anybody. So New Moon Day was on the pagan day of Tuesday, April 15th. And if you take the day after, April 16th, and you include 2300 days, the result is Sunday, August 2nd, 2020, right there. And that was Shavuot. No one is arguing that in regards to this process because they waited for Arcturus to be in the sky before they sailed, and they waited for Pleiades as well. So Arcturus at sunset had to be high in the sky through the whole night. They knew it was safe, along with Pleiades. And this example is from Jerusalem, in 2020 for Shavuot, just as the historical documentation and the archaeological information had shared of when it was safe to travel. So there it is. Now, the year after, if you took 2,300 days after the day of Monday, May 4th, you came to Saturday, August 21st, that pagan day. And sure enough, last year, that was when Shavuot was. And we know that again, the same sign, Arcturus, and there's Pleiades. Again, this is not rocket science. Just follow the historical records of the sailors of when it was safe to travel. So again, there was that cycle. There was the one we just shared. Okay, what about the forecast for this year? Will it work out again? Well, here we are. So the forecast is saying on the pagan day of Friday, April 22nd, 23 days 2,300 days after that, which again, here it is, April 23rd, will bring us to Wednesday, August 10th, 2022. Well, what's the forecast showing? Oh, there it is again without the constellation or constellation lines. It's the same thing. It's the same sign. And it's aligned to the historical records of when it was safe to sail on the Mediterranean. This is not rocket science. Take a look at that similarity. 3 years in a row. August 2nd, August 21st, and August 10th. So that's, a witness in regards to Shavuot, the emissary, and he knew when it was safe to sail. He did experience shipwrecks if you read the rest of the writings. So they didn't risk it. So they knew when to sail. So this is huge for us. And finally, it reveals our other scriptural study assemblies that we participate, and as well, some of them help facilitate, on what is the purpose of prophecy. Remember, teach us to number our days to bring our hearts to wisdom. The sun, moon, and stars are perfect witnesses of light, and were established forever, as the prophet Yirmiyahu had stated. It's continual, and that continuity is so important in prophecy that it sets you up to know in advance, to forecast other scriptural writings, so that you go to bed at night and you sleep like a puppy, peaceful, joyful. So there's more to this than we're just sharing. All we're sharing is the counts and what they do on dates. Again, in Acts chapter 2, verse 1, and when the day of the festival of weeks had come, they were all with one mind in one place. Acts chapter 2, verse 13, but others mocked them and said, people mock what Moshe is all about. People mock the Messiah's writings in lieu of a Jewish historian and rabbi. Remember, it's not those historians' fault. They got caught up in the Exodus twice with the nasty traditions that they absorbed, inherited for Babylon. So this mocking's been going on for centuries, up to and including this very day. And in here they say they are drunk on new wine. Well, what are these dates of the true Shavuot? Have nothing to do with Pentecost or Asartha. August 2nd, August 21st, August 10th. Well, take a look. The harvesting of grapes took place in August and was a joyous occasion for the community. Well, when the emissaries, the apostles, were speaking in tongues, other languages, they were being mocked for that. They must be drunk on new wine. Yes, the new wine shows up in August, the true Shavuot. New wine for new wineskins. We did this video almost a year ago now. New wine of Shavuot and the fifth new moon. So please, if you have time, take a look at it. All of these sites, these historical records, can be verified. Here's another book. It's very old. The Fruit of the Vine, Viticulture in Ancient Israel. The grape harvest in modern Israel occurs in the fall, sometime in August. See, so even today, they don't know we're in the summer months. They don't know that August is a summer month because they don't use the sun, moon, and stars, let alone the full moon as new moon. They don't know the days of remembrance. Even this book doesn't know that. But they do recognize that the wine, the new wine, the sweet wine, is available right at the start of August. This is why this witness, with Daniel's count of 2,300 days, the 40 days and 40 nights counts, the 7 completed Sabbaths, and on the morrow of the 7th completed Sabbath, the 50-day count, all matches to this. Everything matches. So, very easy to explain. So now, let's recap. Let's close this study off. So here's the blank template. And as I shared with you, it includes the foundation of new moon days being the first day of any scriptural month. 7 days later, the 8th day is the first Sabbath. 7 days later, the 15th day is the second Sabbath. 7 days later, the 22nd day, the third Sabbath. And 7 days later, the 29th day, the fourth and final Sabbath of any scriptural month. So I use this as the foundation. I don't need a Gregorian. But for some of you, you're still not comfortable. So this year, with the third month being a 29-day month and the fourth month being a 29-day month, we'll only have a 2-day celebration. We believe, obviously, they showed up for Shavuot, this year being on the 29th day of the fourth month, which is a Sabbath. And they stayed for, obviously, the first day of the fifth month, which is a fast. They stayed there for that. And again, it's a consecrated day. It's New Moon Day. So we believe this year will be a 2-day celebration because of the way it works out. And we do our forecast. So you plug on top of that those Gregorian dates. Again, the fourth month, the first day of the fourth month is a fast. The first day of the fifth month is a fast. 2 fasts. Acts 2, the new wine. I can't make this stuff up. Even the numbers match. 2 tablets. 2 loaves from the fine flour. 2 counts from Moshe. 7 completed Sabbaths, and then count 50 days. And the Messiah Yahushua verifying all that, stating in the first week of the first month of Abib, there are 4 months to the festival of the wheat harvest. It's a wonderful thing. So, again, it's not for everybody here and now. This will be fully restored, obviously, in the millennium. And there is no need to strive with the flesh. Some of them out there right now, you got a few folks that are being bullies like rabbis are. That's what they do, right? That's what Catholic priests do. I came from that. I am not willing to go back to that. Again, I'm a Berean. I can study all this out for myself. I can work out my own deliverance in fear and trembling. I don't need some Nimrod to try to shove down a third-month belief system that can be easily proven as pagan. I don't need that. I came from that. I'm done with it. And many, many more Bereans are done with it as well. So with all the joy, you can share this. You can have love, joy, and patience for those that are still struggling with this. And it will come on board. Have patience. The millennium is soon at hand, and the restoration of all things will indeed take place. And this will be all reinstated, if you will. So again, we continue to call upon the name, Yahuwah himself, our Father of lights, the only self-existent one that studies like these, the 40 days and 40 nights counts to Shavuot, will add value to you and your loved ones. So until next time, may the Messiah Yahushua be in everything we say and do. Have a great 4th and 5th month that is soon upon us. And our next scriptural study will be the sun, moon, and stars forecast, preparing what anyone can go outside anywhere on earth to see, to confirm the first day of the 4th month, let alone the first day of the 5th month. So we'll share that, and we'll go from there. Have a YAHsome day, everyone.